Hello, hello, and good morning, everyone on Clubhouse and on our live streams. That's LinkedIn, that's YouTube, that's Facebook and Periscope and Twitch. We are talking in the Lean Construction Roundtable this morning. If you would like to join us on Clubhouse and participate in the conversation, we are putting the link in the chat right now so you can access it and join our conversation. What we're going to do is really quick do a round of introductions of our moderators here on stage. And let's just do a quick pull to refresh. First and foremost, hi, I'm Brittany Campbell-Turner, CEO and founder of Constructor, and also the founder of the PropTech Group, where we host conversations around anything property focused and technology that's all the way from design to construction to facilities management. With that, I will pass it off to Marcus.
My name is Marcus Turner. I'm very interested in shared risk, shared reward contracting models and being able to digitize that through blockchain.
Good morning. I'm John Zahara with owner's representative firm in Chicago, Integrated Facility Solutions, and my passion is lean and really anything to do with lean coaching, and just I'm glad to be back.
Hello, I'm Sannah Vinding. I'm the Director of Product Development and Marketing at VCC, and we manufacture electronic components. So I'm not in the lean construction world, but the lean mindset is my way of working. And I'm here because I love to learn from other industries.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Felipe Engineer Manriquez. I'm responsible for the national strategy and tactics at McCarthy Building Companies, a nationwide general contractor. I, like John, also love lean and lean construction. And by night, I am the host of the EBFC show, the Easier, Better for Construction podcast, where we get down and dirty with people working to make the construction industry better every day. Happy to be here.
Good morning, LinkedIn, YouTube, Clubhouse, Tony Jones. I'm a project manager for a major general contractor. I also provide to small startups in the construction technology world. My value to these conversations are essentially being a pragmatist, looking at the 80 for 20, where's value being exchanged, hopefully at the hammer, and whenever possible, trying to speed trust in communications, because that's where it all lies. Can I trust the information I'm seeing? Is it timely? Is it important? And is it curated for me? Tony landed.
Well, good morning, all. My name is Jesus Hernandez, and y'all can call me Jesse. I am a lean maniac for a pretty large general contractor in the United States and abroad. So I get to coach lean stuff, and very similar to several of the previous folks, is the reason I do it, and the reason I appreciate it so much is because work is by night, following in Felipe's footsteps. I'm the host of the Learnings and Missteps podcast, where we are celebrating the men and women who have built careers in the construction industry for the purpose of elevating careers in the trades.
Thanks so much, Jesse. So you know, you were cutting out a little bit, but I think we got most of it. So thanks for your introduction. Hussein, will you wrap us up and then we'll go ahead and get started with our conversation today?
Engineer and construction. I'm very avid learner and advocate of lean construction. Have a certificate in lean construction, and I'm happy to be here and learn from you all, guys.
Thank you so much. Again, just those who are listening, this is recorded. You have the opportunity to pick this conversation up a little bit later, but feel free to join the conversation. The link is in the chat and all of the locations where we're streaming. And with that, John, I'm passing the ball off to you. Kick us off in the discussion we're going to talk about today.
Well, thanks, Brittany. And welcome, everybody. Cool that we're streaming on so many platforms. Kind of a couple things that crossed my mind while I was gone and just kind of through the last couple of days here since I've gotten back is there's a couple things, and one of them in the idea of the construction industry is, we have a lot of general contractor representation. We talk a lot about the general contractors often, and they are the powerhouses that really get this ball rolling, and see a lot of value in the idea of lean and the lean principles and lean philosophy. But one thing I always struggle with is how do we get more owners to the table and that want to participate and believe that this is a good way, really the best way to build construction projects. I was heard about an owner recently in healthcare in Chicago that starts talking about wanting to go back and get 3 bids for every contract, and it felt like we were kind of going back in time, not forward in time, where we pick our partners and we move forward with the agenda that we trust people. I think Tony was the one that talked about the speed of trust, and it's such a great concept. But how do we do that, and how do we get more owners to the table? Because you got to have the owner there to fully participate in a lean process. The owner is the let's call it the roadblock or the bottleneck for decision making and everything else on projects. The owners change their minds often, and I am speaking as an owner's representative. So this is what we do every day: is we try to get owners to not be the bottleneck in the process. And I just think about like a strong owner or strong owner's representative, project manager, and how do we get more folks in the room that are owners that want to take the time to really understand and learn this? Because I get a lot of questions when I go out and speak. How do we get our owners more involved in this process? And I always think it can really be helpful to start with the contractor team out in the field. We talk about trying to get these wins under our belt so that we can show either the people internally in our own organizations or externally, like the owner, why this process works so well and why this philosophy works so well. So I think there's a lot of responsibility that ultimately does get put back on the general contractor and trade partner teams to show that this process and this philosophy can generate wins for clients, and then the client starts to pick up on it. So that's like one path, I think, forward for getting more owners involved in the lean process. And I think the other one is just creating a comfortable space for owners to come and talk. So we try to create owners roundtables where owners can come and speak freely about their problems or issues. This is a platform where we do that also, because we speak about our problems and issues all the time on the platform here, where we talk about like what went wrong this week and how are we going to correct it. And I have plenty of stories about things that have gone wrong this week already that we could talk about, and what are the lessons learned that come out of that. So it's kind of an interesting thing that I've been thinking about. Is really one path forward was how do we get more owners involved in the lean construction process, just in the construction process in general. How do we get them to care more about some of the nitty gritty things that we do every day? Because it's important. The details on that are important. Decision making is important. How do we get past these bottlenecks in our decision making process? And how do we do this most effectively? I mean, I think that's really an important thing that I've been thinking about recently. And the value of a good owner project manager is really super important. And so I think, I guess what I'd like to do is just talk about folks' experience on that are up here on stage and just say, what are your experiences with owners and owners representatives, and how can we maybe work to become better as a group?
John, you know how near and dear to my heart this topic is. You must have been have been thinking along the same lines I have been thinking about this past week. That is so so good. Uh, this is one of the reasons why I've gone this direction with constructor in the first place. Um, and also in my day job, my daytime job where I'm working in an insurance company now, I am working as an owner because I'm so passionate about how do we invite the owner into the lean construction thought process, which is part of the reason why um, I think it's important for us to use owner terminology when we're talking about lean. It's not, it doesn't have to say construction. It could go into uh it could say lean property development. It could be from a real estate perspective. I think it's being creative about using terminology that has nothing to do with lean, quote unquote, but has the opportunity to communicate the results that owners want to see. So if it is, hey, I'm going to give you a bit more certainty, quite a bit more certainty for you to be able to deliver your project on time, deliver your project within the budget, and you can determine that way at the beginning of the project. You can invite a team that's going to be solid, that's super collaborative. I mean, they're things that owners are looking for, and if you can communicate it that way, man, I think that makes a big difference. And I'll add one more thing before I pass the ball to someone else, whoever has really great ideas. We're a lot of us have been part of the Lean Construction Institute for a while, and I will tell you that coming out of that organization, there have been a couple pieces of research that I've really done my best to document through my podcast what those pieces of research are communicating, and kind of broadcast that message. One is the business case for lean, specifically for owners, to communicate what is the improved likelihood for your projects to be improved by cost and schedule. And there's also additional research as to, let's go ahead and debunk the myths about lean construction. If you do it, a light, it's not as effective if you're doing IPD light, as an example. It's just communicating, hey, these are the things that you should be thinking about as an owner. And then also Renee Chang, I'll shout her out here. She has done an enormous amount of research on what makes teams effective, particularly using lean construction and IPD contracts, particularly. And I mean, I can go ahead and post those in the chat for you guys. But I think there's just an enormous amount of information that, as long as we continue to share what potential results owners can realize, I think yeah, that's certainly just one way. I'm so excited to hear what other ideas people have.
Yeah, I'll jump on that. I'm ready. Put me in. Put me in, coach. I'm ready to jump in. All right. I work with several large healthcare owners in the United States that work in many, many, many different cities, and some of them have multiple state presences. And one of the things that happened with one particular one that operates in 8 states, I'm gonna let them be anonymous because I haven't gotten their permission to share this beautiful story yet, but you might be able to guess who they are. Very. In 2 of the states where they operate, they do more than $1 billion worth of construction a year. And one of the things that we did we work for this client, they're one of our clients. They had expressed some concerns about how construction was very unpredictable. And this particular owner, to speak owner speak, as Brittany had said, they were very concerned on being able to predict spend because of how they finance. And finance is a very critical part of how owners procure projects, fund projects, and then pay for projects as we put them into reality. And so they said, we know that the old way doesn't work. We know that cost plus reimbursable contracts don't deliver reliability. And we've heard of these other things. We participate with LCI. We've heard of the magic from Sutter Health in California as the inspiration and a little bit of competition. So I would recommend to all of you, if you have an owner that you're targeting with some lean principles, take a look at who they compete with. Like Brittany said, keep this very specific to who is the owner and speak in their language. So this client wanted to improve that. They came to us and they said, hey, we would like to, within maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, it seems impossible. We'd like to do target value delivery, and we would like to get to an integrated project delivery contract model. And they said, we don't think it's even possible, but we would like to. That's our desire. And I said, don't talk about it, be about it. I'm going to help you for free to get there, to achieve your goals. And I said, we're going to do it by thinking and planning and understanding a little bit of change management in your organization. They had made an investment in two individuals that had heavy lean experience, but they were working in an organization with near zero lean awareness. And what I'm proud to say today was in a meeting this week, that client said, congratulations. They didn't say congratulations. I actually said congratulations to them, but they said, we now have piloted our first IPD project, successfully completed, on time, on schedule, made all of our outcomes, hit all of our outcomes, all of them, safety, quality, patient care, everything. And I said, I had to pause the meeting, interrupt, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, this team has achieved what they thought was impossible. They said this could not be done in this organization. That was 3 years ago. I said, we've got to give kudos to the two people on this team that have led that charge. And I called out two of their project managers by name. And I said, you have done it. You have done what you said, what thought was impossible 3 years ago. You did it. And now they have a concerted focus. They've connected across their entire organization. This, like I said, they operate in 8 different states. Those different entities operate as separate units, even though they fly under the same banner, the same company brand. They are in reality different companies. And now they've unified and they've started cross collaborating, sharing information. I've even been contacted by some of the representatives in other states and said, hey, I was on this call for this California thing, and I saw you on here, and it seemed like everybody knew you, and they were like asking you questions. And can you help share a little bit of this backstory? So I have been a conduit to help them share the information and to get there. And what I want to say to all the owners listening, and to all the people that work in the supply chain to help owners deliver projects, the results for them have been over the 3 years as we got them to start experimenting with these different contracting methods and work towards target value delivery even before when they were on their traditional contract. Things that we set up for the first time ever 2 years ago. So year one, the ROI to the owner, zero contractor claims. First time in their history, zero contractor claims. I got to say it again. Thank you, John, for applauding. I'm sitting down, but man, I should stand up and be jumping up. That was phenomenal. We heard from one of the smaller general contractors and who had been participating in this process with us, and they said, this was the first job we've ever done in 15 years of working in this area that we didn't have a trade partner claim. And they said that one of the PM said, I think there's something to this lean stuff. And now I'm a believer. And I said, yes, there's definitely something to it. I'm Felipe and I'm done speaking.
That's an amazing story, Felipe, about the idea that the zero claims thing is huge. And I think, Brittany brought it up, you brought it up, the idea of certain outcomes. So like the concept of how can we I think people talk about like let's deliver projects under budget and ahead of schedule. I think that's a lofty goal to start with. I think the idea of certain outcomes, deliver projects on time, on budget, is even something that we don't accomplish ever. So let's try that. Let's try to provide certain outcomes for the delivery of our projects. And it's amazing to think like when I heard you say they wanted to do target value delivery in the next 5 to 10 years, I was like, holy cow, that's a long time from now. There's so many things that they could be reaping the benefits of so much earlier on if they just tried something a little bit different. And I think that's the hard part is people are afraid of change. They're afraid of the idea of change. And how do we do things that are maybe a little bit different, but it's probably more like the business we've always done. We just call it a different name. And sometimes that calling it a different name is something that scares people away. I was thinking while you and Brittany were both talking, what is it about the word construction that scares people away? Also, the word construction is something that has had taken a negative connotation sometimes in our business. I know designers really appreciate the concept of design, right? And the fact that we don't call this lean design roundtable, we call it the lean construction roundtable or whatever, lean construction institute. They ask, where's the design portion? And the word construction somehow takes a negative connotation, possibly just because of how inefficient and unpredictable it is. So I wonder, like, how do we, modify our language to make it so that the idea of target value, we even called it target value design for a long time, and we changed that name and got rid of the word design. So what is it? Why don't we want to call it? I like the idea that it's target value delivery because it's the delivery of the entire project process, not just the front end design. But I feel like there's a lot of negativity around the industry. And I love the idea because I talk about it all the time, especially when we're doing like a lean 101 presentation, is the idea of certain outcomes for both schedule and budget and providing certain outcomes. That's the first starter. And how do you do that? You do that with collaboration, and then you get to the point, like Felipe said, within 1 year, you have zero trade partner claims on projects. That's incredible because change orders kill projects and kill profitability, kill a lot of things. Everyone thinks that the trade partners are making tons of money off of change orders. It's a fallacy. I worked as a trade partner, and I think we lost money in every change order we ever had. And so I think that's something that a lot of owners need to really understand is that change orders are not where contractors make money. That's actually you're stopping the train moving, barreling down the track to divert it to do something and modify something or rework something that creates waste. And then when the change order doesn't get paid for 150 days because it has to go through this whole lengthy, arduous process, the contractors have lost all their money that they would have made. The small amount of profit they would have made is gone. So that's a problem too. But
Yeah, John, let me if you
yeah,
don't
go ahead.
mind, I would love to address your comment around the negative connotations. So I didn't want to cut you off. Please finish your statement, but I want to make sure to
No, go
respond
ahead.
to that.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing that you're exploring because this comes back to the conversation around culture that we've brought up in past discussions. For those of you who are not familiar, we do have this discussion, a lean construction roundtable, and it doesn't just focus on lean. Actually, Sana, who's not part of the construction industry, led the conversation last week about just simply making good business decisions. And I'm going to just take that scale back up really quickly because it is just about making good business decisions. John, I would recommend you were on vacation. Please take a listen to that conversation, because I think what it does is it helps kind of just set the expectations again. I mean, that was another conversation we had a couple weeks ago, setting good expectations. It's about taking that scale back up of what is it the owner is looking for, and removing the hurdles in order to get to the end goal. Oftentimes, having worked as an owner's rep and now working on the owner side, oftentimes it seemed almost an insurmountable process, especially if an owner is not a competent owner, one that has experience delivering projects. It seems very daunting to embark into uh, delivering a project, doing a renovation. And oftentimes people go enter into experiences, particularly with home renovations, not knowing what to do, how to go about it, and they have negative experiences in the home renovations. Now, I'm not saying home building contractors are bad in any way, shape, or form, but because people don't know how to ask what they're looking for, sometimes that lack of experience of setting expectations causes a negative experience down the road. And therefore, it causes for a negative connotation to be built around the entire culture. And I don't say entire, I'm not trying to cover the industry to say the entire culture of construction is bad. But to your point, there is a negative connotation because of the negative experiences that people have had with construction. I think that to your point about changing the language of, hey, let's focus on lean design. Let's focus on uh, target value delivery as a whole entire thing. It is about being inclusive of all of the stakeholders on the project and understanding what their goals are, and what they hope to achieve as their part of the entire project. So hopefully that gives some perspective. It's kind of scaling it back up and helping people to make good decisions and have the right participants in order to do that, including design, construction, insurance companies, people who do soil testing. Like, there are so many elements to what delivers a project, that uh, we don't want to neglect really anyone. So with that, somebody else take it away.
I think go ahead, Jesse. But I was going to talk about Brittany. I was thinking about the idea of conditions of satisfaction, and we can come back to that because that's really the key thing that I think we're all talking about, is setting that expectation early on about how we're going to be satisfied when the project's over. So, Jesse, go ahead.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so I'm gonna bring a little bit of I'll be a bummer for this conversation. I agree, right? Conditions of satisfaction, and for me, like Brittany, I think you nailed it. Is what what problem? I hate asking it this way, but what problem are we trying to solve, right? Does the client even understand or believe that there is a problem? Because if they don't think it's a problem, or don't recognize it, or can't see it, any tool, any whiz bangy lean thing we bring to the table is just going to help them roll their eyes about it. And that's also reinforced by some experiences, prior experiences they've had in the past, working with organizations or general contractors that, all of their marketing says that they're a lean organization. But when they come up and start actually building, or working, assembling the team, they quickly realized that it was just the wrapper. It was nothing for real. It was just the branding. It's not an actual part of their culture, which is Brittany all the time, right? It's always about culture. I sat in panel discussion with some owners and owners reps, and one of the questions on the table was, what do you value the most? What are the most important things? And granted, this was a small number of owners, but it was a decent data point. And the response was schedule, budget, with a long pause. Oh yeah, and safety. And someone followed up, well, what do you think about lean practices? Wouldn't those things help you with schedule and budget? And without hesitation, they almost fell over each other trying to respond to that question. And the response was, look, how is that different? Because everybody's selling it. And when we actually get out there to do the damn job, they all look the same, meaning lean practitioners, lean organizations, push organizations, standard old school style approach to work. They don't see the difference after the front end. So I mean that's not an answer. I think it's maybe just to raise awareness. Felipe's beautiful story, right? Beautiful experience. Although it's local and it can be a fairy tale to the owners that have been bit. And then if we go just a little deeper, think of all the lean consultants out there in the construction space. I mean, there are hugely varying styles and methods of coaching out there. And I'm not talking about specific processes and methodology of coaching. I'm just talking about some of them are jerks. And so if that's the client's first impression of lean, we just made we just made the job a whole lot harder. Uh, those are my thoughts on it. I appreciate y'all letting me bring the tone down just a bit. I am a huge enthusiast, and I believe I've seen some magical, beautiful things happen out there in terms of relationships, people understanding each other's problems, people really digging in and learning how to best contribute all the way through to completion. But it's a big hill, and it's going to take all of us to get there. I'm Jesse, and I'm done speaking.
Yeah, Jesse, I mean you're right on because we've heard about big project failures that went down the road of the lean process, the IPD contract. But without good facilitation and with somebody either from the outside world, like a lean coach who understands they can fit with that team culture, or somebody internally from the owner side who is helping to facilitate this process, or even the contractor side, whatever, without good facilitation, without good kind of somebody there to like bring people out of their seats and work together, we revert back to our old standards and old ways of how we have always done construction or how we've always done things. And we pull back into our silos and we put the walls back up and the barriers between us back up, and we create these boundaries that people are not allowed to enter into. And so it just goes back to the owner gets one bad taste in their mouth, and then it's they're done. And so the hard part is, how do you create the concept around just this is how we build projects. This is how we're going to be building projects moving forward, period. How do we get to maybe the younger generation of students that are in college and university studying construction, design, etc., and get them to understand that this is just how we talk and how we speak and how we treat each other in this industry, so that it doesn't seem like it's something new or different or change, because that's when people get shy. They shy away, or they say, oh, we're going to go do lean on this project, when we've all talked about the philosophy is something that's a long-term philosophy, and it's not just something you do, it's who you are. It's what you are lean. You're not doing lean on this project over here. So I think, getting to the younger generation, breaking down the barriers where design professionals, engineering professionals feel like they're a part of this whole process in a more collaborative way. The idea of trade partners versus subcontractors and that whole philosophy. I think all those things are really important to breaking down the barriers of change, because we hate that word change. It's terrible, and it scares us away from some of the best project deliverables we're ever going to have all been, in my mind, have all been in a lean project delivery process, whether we called it lean or not. If we're working together, we're going to be having fun. We're going to be doing things in a much better way. And at the end of the day, the profits will come. But people are afraid of this thing because they say, oh, lean is going to cost us more money. And that's another, in my mind, that's another fallacy that needs to. And I think Brittany brought it up, the idea of the business case for lean, certain outcomes on project deliverables. Those kind of things are really important to continue to emphasize and to not. I think maybe the word lean is what we can almost take out of it, and this is just how we manage construction projects. So yeah, we have to call it a lean philosophy because it's a philosophy we believe in internally, but maybe externally to our clients and everybody else, we don't even call it lean. We just say this is how we do work. This is the McCarthy way, or this is the IFS way, or this is whatever you want to call it, the Sutter Health way. We don't call it this is the lean way of how we do things. We have a lean way and then we have the other way. We just say this is our way. And if we do that, maybe that helps to break down the barriers and help people realize that there are huge gains and benefits from having a philosophy about collaboration and cooperation versus being adversaries from the start, because that's what our contracts traditionally are doing, is setting us up as adversaries from the beginning of the project, which that sucks.
Yeah. John, I appreciate the connection to something else other than saying we're doing it a lean way. I used to work for an organization that, one of their taglines was, we do it a better way. Um, I think there's some validity to changing how it's communicated. But what I will propose to this group is to just talk to tangible stories. I think I talked about stories some weeks ago, how important they are, and the results and the um, a- actual outcomes and communicating those. I think that when I was working as an owner's rep and communicating about the results that we were able to actually achieve on projects, hands down, that is what had someone calling me back saying, "Hey, I'd like to, have your help on this next XYZ project because of the story you told me about you working somewhere else doing something specifically that we can get a result in." So just want to, give you that insight that it's helpful to speak to those specific results, and the more and more we can do that, that's likely uh one of the strong ways that we can continue to socialize what lean is, um without even ever having to use the words.
I got a
Absolutely.
story.
Go ahead,
Just to
Felipe.
go back,
Yeah.
John, on what you said. In my role, I just took responsibility. So everybody who's listening, I'm going to tell you this is a responsibility story really quick. In my role, I have the ability to volunteer uh, on the company's behalf. They allow me that they give me that luxury. And all the hours that I work, they're like, you know what, you work so many hours. Why don't you go ahead and volunteer a couple of those out to other places? One of the places I volunteer is with student groups. So I partnered with the American General Contractors Association in California, and I became a Build California ambassador. And as an ambassador, it's my job to enthusiastically bring forward the future designers and builders, and even people at the front line closest to the value, as Tony said, at the hammer strike, right where the hammer hits the nail, all the way there. So one of the things that I've been doing as I engage with these student groups, talking about all of the opportunities that are in construction, I'm treating these future leaders as if I wanted to be treated exactly the same way that I wanted to be treated when I was coming into the industry. I'm telling them things that people were not telling me and that were not sharing with me. I'm telling them, like, this is the reality of construction. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And I said, each one of you has the ability to join into this industry as a leader and bring forward information that you have. And just talking to the people I've spoken with, all of these students from high school to universities, there are absolutely leaders out there and that are stepping forward. And one particular group I want to highlight San Jose State University, their AGC chapter, they wanted to engage and have us. They wanted to have me and bring some project people to speak. And in the first, like, let's the pre-meeting to the meeting, because like all good project management trained people, you can't just have a meeting. You got to have a meeting before the meeting. And it sounds like a Dilbert cartoon. It's because it is. So we're having this meeting before the meeting to see like what's Felipe going to talk about with students, with our students for an hour. It's like, well, you asked me. They actually wanted me to talk about leadership and energy and environmental design, lead, because they looked at my LinkedIn profile and they're like, oh, he's a lead AP BD plus C. And I was like, yeah, I can definitely talk about that, but I'd rather talk about what is on your top of mind for the students. So I said, let me serve you all and give you the information that you want right now coming into the industry. Some of them are graduating now, some of them still have 2 more years. And I said, what a great opportunity to pick the mind of someone who's going to honestly tell you truth for what you're getting yourself into. And so we ended up having like a good meeting. It had children. So we had a series of meetings with this leadership group, and they eventually actually even reached out to Jason Schroeder. I had a meeting on Father's Day. This is a true story, John. On Father's Day, on Sunday, because the students are busy during the week. And I told them, call me anytime. Man, they took me up on that. So I gave them an hour on Father's Day with Jason, and we answered a lot of their questions. And it was incredible to see the light bulbs turning on and people getting energized and coming in. And I said, and Jason and I were very targeted with them. We said, every day in construction is not going to be an awesome day. There's ups and downs. Like Jesse took us down and then he vanished. You know, that type of stuff happens in the real world too. So, but I said, you have the responsibility now because you know something a little more than your friends don't know. You know, when we talk about lean construction, there are tools, methods, tactics that are out there, but there are also enabling principles and ideas that allow these things to work. Ideas like respect for people. And so the students have just been incredible. They have been energetic. They have fueled me. My giving to them has paid me back so much more than I ever thought possible. Every time I talk to that group, I'm re-energized for what I'm doing. And I know with their enthusiasm and the things that they want to bring to the industry, they're not afraid of the word change. And they're not afraid of being told no. And I'm empowering people now. I don't even know where they're going to work. Like they're going to go all over the place. And it doesn't matter. So we're seeding the future right now, John. We're seeding the future. So all of you that know a little bit of something, if you have the opportunity to share what you know with the next generation or the future leaders, I highly recommend you do that. It's going to pay back to you so much more. And I'm just like, my optimism cup has overflown, John. It's just overflowing. I'm Felipe and I'm done speaking.
Felipe, I love it. I love it. I do that same thing. I like anytime I can get in front of students, talk to them about the language that we're using so that it just becomes their language when they get out to the industry and the workforce. I spoke at Brittany's alma mater, IIT, a month or 6 weeks ago, and it was the same thing. It was really invigorating to talk to them. They had great questions that even industry professionals are not asking. And these students are very smart. They want to learn, and we've tried to make an emphasis with the Chicago community of practice for LCI and getting student chapters involved. We know that that's insanely important, and so we've really tried to branch out to a lot of universities, and we've been successful doing it at Northwestern, UW Madison, down to Purdue, Illinois, IIT. Set up a scholarship fund for students to apply to through LCI, Chicago Community of Practice. We just handed out a couple scholarships earlier this week at our golf outing. Just really great to see young individuals excited about the industry and I think this language that they're learning is just this is how we do business, and I love to see that because that's really where that next generation coming in is just saying, why aren't we collaborating better on these projects? And they're not afraid to ask the questions, they're not afraid to speak up, and they want to collaborate, which is beautiful. And I think the idea of stories is so incredibly important. The hard part, I think, the only hard part I see with some of the stories is the fact that we have so many great stories. We get so excited talking about it. We talk about all of our successes. We got to really talk about how we either moved away from or averted failure by thinking this way, believing this way, or we talk about some of our project failures and how we were able to overcome them with a collaborative team effort. And so I think those are important stories to tell because I always try to put in there some of the negative pieces, like Jesse bringing us down. I try to like incorporate something that would have been a failure, but we were able to, divert away from that failure or something within the story that I tell, so that hopefully it shows people it's not all rosy. Because when we talk about it, and we love it, and we get so excited about it, everyone's like, yeah, whatever. You guys are nuts, and I think that's a lot of owners or contractors look at us like you guys. I mean, it's just not going to work for us because that's not how things go. And so I think that's another thing that's really difficult about um, getting this out there and telling these stories of our successes, but also of our failures and how we learn from that.
I want to share. Here's a success and a sad story failure at the same time, real quick. I was in a project in Texas yesterday for a county, a lot of public money healthcare hospital, and the project absorbed through high collaboration, John, through lean intensity. It absorbed millions of dollars of changes for added scope because they were able to secure donors to pay for some of these things that they didn't have at the start of the job 3 years ago. So these are welcome changes to enhance what the hospital is going to be able to provide. And the team finished on the original promised schedule. And they finished with less than 3.5% in change orders on a hospital. On a hospital. I'm talking about, I believe it was a 5-story, and I walked into the hospital and my dumb self did not count the stories, but I believe it was a 5-story hospital. And we were inside the auditorium. The very auditorium that we were doing the project debrief in was a change order thanks to donorship to fill a need for educational part of the hospital. I said, man, we were using the space to celebrate the space. So all of these successes, John, and we're having lunch after the debrief, and the team talked about the challenges, things that they absolutely hate. We did a start, stop, keep debrief exercise, and we identified many different things that they, if they could do it all over again, what would they do different? So there were definitely things that came forward. They actually had said things like, even though this was a high collaboration project, we should have brought on trade partners even sooner than we did, which I absolutely love. So all of that said, a super happy owner. The owner stood up and even thanked the architect and us and said, this was a perfect example of how lean thinking can deliver. So all of that said, John, we're sitting at lunch, the thing's over, we're just chit-chatting, or as my friends say, chitter-chatting. I said, my friends tell me don't ever say chitter-chatting, but I just said it. I just love it. And one of my team members said to me, you know, it was kind of complicated and complex. It's hard to say if lean really played a factor. It's hard to say if collaboration was really what it was, because this thing was really, complex. It's hard to say. And I looked at one of my other partners and I said, that right there, that type of thinking, you heard from the owner's mouth themselves. You heard from the architect themselves. They even brought in people that are at the front lines of cancer treatment. And they said how the collaboration made a difference. And they talked about some of the different lean thinking elements and methods used. And still, one of my people was like, I don't think it was lean. I don't think it was collaboration. I
And what
think,
what
and this is what
percentage
they
change orders
specifically
again?
said,
What was the
less
percentage?
than 3.5%. Less than 3. Thank you, Brittany. And the person said, I think that you're over, you and the whole, everybody else here, including the hospital staff, you're giving too much credit to lean. I think you just got lucky. And I just want to share that, John. It's that type of thinking. I mean, the person was in striking distance. I could have knocked them out of their chair from my elbow. That's how close they were to me. And this is somebody that I worked with for years. And I said, I hear what you're saying about luck. However, projects that embody this is a repeatable process. And if you might have been sleeping at the start when the owner said the reason we're all gathered here today is because we know that this model works. This project is a testament to how collaboration works, and we are going to set a new standard for how we're going to operate from now on. Every project we do from this point forward, we are going to raise the bar and come after it just like we did here. I told the person, maybe you shouldn't check your cell phone email when the owner is speaking. My name is Felipe, and I'm done speaking.
Maybe you just got lucky. That's, oh my gosh, so frustrating.
Ah!
You're right. We just got lucky on this one. We just got lucky on this one. I mean, we had this. It's. I love it when the client comes out and says, "Without this, we wouldn't have gotten this done." And to really notice that, I think sometimes we've had huge project success for a long time with one particular client. We're talking about 2 decades as a outside sourced vendor, and 3 decades before that, the founder of our company worked for this organization internally. So we're talking about 5 decades of experience of project success. And I think sometimes it's taken for granted that you have so much success, and we're not just getting lucky. This is about um, a full team effort. And in construction, I think the hard part is people are so used to over budget, way beyond schedule, all the change orders, everything else, that they feel like it's almost you got lucky because they don't believe it. They can't believe that we could actually finish a project. We had a second floor build out of a space, 17,500 square feet, and I suggested that we do a 2 to 3 day Kaizen design event to get the schematic design and design development done. And I said we could do it in 3 days, in June, and this was a couple years ago. The client's like, "Yeah, we can't devote 3 days to it." So we took the entire month of June with our typical design process to get to a schematic design floor plan. July 1st, they hand us the floor plan and say, "Here you go. And by the way, we need you to be done by December, end of December." So they gave us 6 months to take a 17,500 square foot space, procure an elevator, two air handlers, a decorative staircase, do all the permitting, do all the engineering, get pricing, write the contracts, build the space, etc. Right? Um, we did an integrated project delivery contract with the same team we had used to build the original building. Finished the job in 5.5 months, and design bid build project would have taken us probably 9 to 10 months. And we still have people today saying, "Well, that project was way too expensive." And I said, "Yeah, but you think about the priorities of what we needed. Schedule was number one, and we knew the scope. And I asked for more time, and you didn't give it to me. You gave us July 1st. We were done on December 15th, 5.5 months of permitting, procurement. So the day one, we sit down and are like, oh, well, we need to order an elevator today. This is before we have contracts, before we have anything. We're sitting down saying, let's get the elevator guy in the room and let's talk to him about ordering the elevator today. What do we need to do for air handlers? Those are 8 to 12 to 14 weeks. If we don't order them tomorrow, we're going to miss the boat on the project delivery. So immediately beginning collaboration and procurement of materials before the design of the second floor was even close to being finished. You don't get that. That doesn't happen unless you bring the collaborative team to the table from day one. And so those are the kinds of project successes that they're looking at it like, yeah, well, it cost a lot of money. It actually didn't cost a lot of money, but everyone wants to throw an excuse at it saying it didn't, why it worked because you just threw a bunch of money at it. Well, that's not really the case. We didn't work overtime. The drywall contractor was innovating as we were going, prefabbing framed soffits, things that they weren't doing on the first phase of the project. They're doing on the second phase to save time, to save the client money, saving hundreds of thousands of dollars in costs. Uh, and so it looks like we overinflated the budget, but what we did was we were innovating as we were going through the project delivery and dropping money to the bottom line for the client. And I think we talked about it really early at the beginning of the conversation about an hour ago about clients' money is so important and so tight sometimes. How can we do more projects with the same amount of money? That's always a situation that we run into, is how can we build more projects, but we only have the same amount of money? And so how do we find these savings? How do we find the dollars to drop to the bottom line and give back to the client or share with the team? Because we celebrate project success, and it's not just luck. It takes a lot of effort and skill. And, yeah, I could see where the frustration would lie when the guy says, well, you just got lucky on this one.
Ah!
Well, we're an hour into the conversation. Tony, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sitting here eating breakfast, and you're just hitting point after point. Again, I'm just a simple, practical guy. I'm still at the level of go see. How can I help the teams go see faster? I'm a believer in the simple tools of three-dimensional rendering, matching the BIM model to what's actually in place, matching that as fast as possible to a time schedule, showing people this is exactly what's changed in our last meeting. How do I bring everyone up to speed? And I've started to integrate a professional meeting manager, someone who's not from any one of our teams, someone who's third party, who help us keep our butts on target. Again, when we use repeated teams, and I love using repeating teams, there's times we get too close to one another that we will slowly stop talking shop in the sharp words that make us move. So again, I believe in lean. I believe in using repeated teams. But over the last year now, I've added one more little piece to the puzzle. Someone who's not from our team, asking as a third party media manager, who will not just talk shop with us, who will cut us up. And that's, again, maybe that's an evolution other people are going to go through. As I said, being practical. I believe in lean, but I'm still at the help everyone go see as quickly as possible and making sure our big meetings go as well as possible by integrating a third party person who will cut us. Tony Landit.
Yeah, Tony, I love the idea of having that facilitator to call people out of their seats is extremely important. And I think we hire consultants to do so many things on our projects. Why is a consultant like that, who will get people out of their seats and talk to them about this, why is that something that we find is that we don't want to hire? I mean, I think what a great thing that's come out of this, these experiences and knowing each other, is that Brittany and I were able to work together on a project and started to work together on a project with me as a lean coach and her as an internal owner project manager. Because even with all of the strength that they have within their team, they said we would like somebody from the outside to help with this process, and who has experience doing a different type of delivery method, or has that next level of experience with the contract, et cetera. And so it was great for us to work together on this project about really convincing or working with their internal team on why the lean IPD contract is the only contract that should be used. And we got there, which is incredibly important. We have success stories to share about this project already. We haven't even built the project. We have success stories already that the process and the philosophy really do work. And that's a great thing to bring somebody in from the outside. When you're thinking about the overall cost of projects, everyone looks at construction and says, "Wow, this is so expensive." And it's because the first cost to build a building, the first cost is so huge when you think about building even a $10 million building. Okay, that's a lot of money in, especially people that are thinking about it in the ways that they would think about their own dollars. To build a $10 million building is an expensive proposition. When you think about the overall life cycle and the cost to build, to own, maintain, and operate that building for its life cycle, $10 million is nothing. It's the smallest portion of what you'll ever spend on energy and the people that work there and the remodels that you're going to do and the upgrades you're going to do. $10 million is somewhere in the realm of 1% to 3% of the overall cost to own, operate, and maintain that building over its lifespan. And then when you think about the consultants that you're bringing into the mix that are a fraction of a percent of that, but what those individuals can bring to the table, even the entire contractor team and the design team can bring to the table is so incredibly important to that, call it 1% to 3% of the overall cost to own, operate, and maintain a building. And now you're talking about fractions of a percent to bring in specialized consultants, contractors, trade partners, team members. We got to stop thinking about first cost as such a huge insurmountable thing. And we got to think about the long-term effects of, if I build the building correctly, if I collaborate correctly, if I put the valves in the correct spaces, and if I think about the end goal and I have people looking, walking, going, seeing, as Tony would say, go to see the work, go see what's going on out there. And we use all of our intelligent brains to build better and easier, then we have a product that is easier to maintain, will cost less to maintain, will cost less to renovate, will cost less to operate. That's powerful. So if we can convince clients or have people think about the first cost is not the most important, but the end goal, the ROI, how long it takes to own, operate, and maintain a building, and how much money it takes to do that. If we incorporate that into our design philosophy early on, we're going to see huge wins. That's a hard thing to convince people of because they're looking at first cost all the time. But those specialized consultants that really get people out of their seats and get them talking are extremely important. And hopefully more people are thinking about that as we build out new projects. I mean, I think it's really important.
Brittany, do you want to reset the room since we've got a couple new people on stage?
Brittany might be. Oh, are you available, Brittany?
This is Marcus using Brittany's iPad. She just went to her meeting.
All right, I'll do a quick. Marcus, you tell me when we got, but just want to bring everybody. We got John sharing some beautiful stories here. Lean Construction Roundtable happens every Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. Marcus will get it scheduled, or Brittany will schedule it. So check your calendars. Look out for that every Thursday at 7 a.m. Central Time. The beautiful John Sakara sharing the beautiful knowledge with us, and got some other moderators here up on stage. We do want to say hello to Stephanie and Ahmed who come up on stage. Hello, y'all. It's good to see you. Good to have some people here. We got a question
Hello.
or a comment. Yeah, if you want to say hello, and then if you got a question or a comment for John, hit him with it right now.
Yeah, I do. We're telling a lot of stories. I'm just curious about who are the beekeepers of the case studies that have been documented to be able to share in our networks, to carry this, I'll call it the message forward.
All right, so this is Brittany. I I somehow navigated this meeting in order to chat for a little bit. I will give you just one resource, and I did put it on the chat when we talked about this a little bit earlier, Stephanie. Renee Chang has done such a good job with documenting research in this space about success stories and parsing out the elements of why moving forward with lean on projects really makes sense. So that's one resource that I've been finding super valuable. She's done a lot of research over the years, so I would definitely follow her.
Thank you, Brittany.
Yeah, Stephanie, the other website that I would direct you to is a close friend of all of ours up here on stage, and leanipd.com would be another space where James has collected case studies from around the country. He has a blog. He's got it's really, the website is put together extremely well. What is IPD? What is it all about? So leanipd.com is another great resource. Obviously, leanconstruction.org is the LCI's website. Leanconstruction.org is another resource for finding your local community of practice. So Stephanie, I'm not sure where you're at, but in your geography, but there are like 30 COPs across the country. So this is the branches of the national group that are represented at the local level, and there's a nice robust community that is
I used all the water.
presenting on topics. And what's been great about the last year and a half, out of shockingly, what's been great is the fact that a lot of things have obviously gone virtual, so you can share knowledge across the entire country much easier than we were willing to do before. And so we have lean coffees, a very similar format to this, which is our lean coffee format with LCI. And the lean coffee is an agendaless meeting where we come and talk about topics that people want to talk about. And we have moderators, facilitators. And so this is kind of structured around that in a small sense, but leanconstruction.org is another great avenue to go to find information about lean. And I think there's also the Lean Construction blog, which is a different entity or group, but they also provide a lot of good information, a lot of good articles written or blogs written about from probably Felipe himself has been published on the Lean Construction blog.
Published on everything you said, John, just magically.
And not to interrupt you, John, but I am aware of much of what you said, but I was specifically trying to hone in on case studies that put the context of what it was to where it had become because of lean. That it was. I was just honing in on case studies. I'll take a look myself. I'm a researcher by nature, but it's a big subject. I just want to be able to hone in on the practicalities, because as we all know, all through the value chain, that's all that matters. Many of you have identified that time and again, whether it's from the sub perspective or whether it's in the trades perspective or whether it's from the owner's rep perspective. People just want to see where the rubber meets the road, and that's all. There's context around that, of course, but I'm just saying in terms of the practicalities of the day-to-day stories. Thank you.
Stephanie, I'm looking at leanipd.com right now. James has right at the top is what is IPD? The next thing is case studies, and he's got healthcare, small projects, innovation, and risk management. And so there's case studies there right at the forefront for you to click on from what he's been able to gather just from friends around the industry and his own experiences. So definitely some really good stuff to go to and find there for sure.
Perfect. Thank you so much, John.
James has worked closely with Renee as well in actually providing her information for her research, and they've collaborated on research as well. So thanks for calling that out, John. I think those two individuals go deep on the case studies piece.
He's right on the front page of his website giving a testimonial about the idea of IPD and the 5 myths about IPD and lean. So again, great content. They collaborated on a book called Integrated Project Delivery and Action Guide for Leaders. Again, just trying to disseminate and distill information down to the basic fundamental level. There's a free download you can get, or you can buy it on Amazon. I have the actual book version because I'm a nerd that likes the paper, not just the digital world. So, but yeah, great resources. Great resource there for sure. And James is a very approachable. He got me into this whole thing to begin with. So James Peace is out in California. And when I was looking at, how do I want to get to my client, my healthcare client in Chicago and say, we should be doing this. We need to be writing these contracts, the IFOA, the full blown. We've been doing this for so long. We were doing lean before it was lean, quote unquote, laughably a little bit. But we built a project in 2010, 2011-ish, before LCI had started a Chicago community of practice and everything else. We built this project. It was $60 million ambulatory care center, and we did this with a collaborative team concept without the full IPD contract. It was a GMP contract, but we had kind of structured it with allowances built in, but the allowances had to be asked for to be used. And so we started to kind of develop this philosophy and way to work using lean tools and principles before we knew they were lean. I just came into the first meeting and said, I want to have fun on this project. This is a massive project for us, but I want to enjoy it. I want to enjoy this team, and I want to have fun, and I want to take all the BS out of it. And so it took a little while to change the mindset of being open, honest, and transparent about how we were doing business. But man, it was a great roadmap for how we want to deliver projects. And when it came time in 2014, 2015 to start thinking about how do we get to do a full integrated project delivery contract, I was on a webinar and I was listening to James Peace talk about it, and I called him up afterwards, or I shot him an email or something, and we had an hour-long conversation. He's sharing the IPD contract that they used at Sutter Health with me in a Word document that I could edit, that I could send to our attorneys to figure out how to get it to be an Illinois contract versus a California contract. And that's what really shot off to a great friendship and collaboration. James and I have spoken nationally at multiple conferences about lean and IPD and the strength of why you need a strong owner's project manager, owner's representative in the room during this process. And the philosophy has to be instilled from the owner. And so we've talked about this nationally. We're doing it again in October at LCI's conference in Phoenix about the strength of why an owner's representative is so critical to this philosophy and process of building projects. And so he's a great resource and a really good friend. And it's been excellent to kind of be on this journey with individuals like I've known Brittany for a long time. Felipe, I met Felipe a number of years ago. Being involved in LCI has brought a lot of really great friendships because it's exciting. It's exciting to embark on this and try to allow our industry to evolve to something that is going to make all of our lives so much easier and better, and just make our projects more enjoyable as a whole. And that's something that's it's almost like an intangible, but how do you leave the project at the end of the day feeling satisfied? And that's what we were talking about earlier, the ideas of conditions of satisfaction. Our first IPD contract had in the conditions of satisfaction said we want everyone to leave the project having a profit and feeling satisfied and like they had fun building this building. We wrote that into the contract. What owner writes into the contract that they want everyone on the team to make a profit? I've never seen a contract like that before. But it's beautiful because we did it. At the end of the day, the owner got money back and everyone else on the project team made a profit. And this is our first go at this thing. But you have to have strong facilitation. We talked about it with Tony, the idea of getting people and their butts out of the seats. We probably need to do a better job of displaying those things as case studies so that more people in the industry can find this information and see the project successes that you can have on something as easy as a 30,000 square foot medical office building on a greenfield site. This isn't the most complex project delivery you can have, but still we have huge project success because we come to the table and just say, you know what, let's work together instead of separately.
As construction work is pragmatic in its nature, I think the more pragmatically we wrap our arms around this from our various perspectives, the sooner we're going to get there.
Ahmed, can we hear from you?
This could be the middle of his workday. Oh, okay. Ahmed, you went off mute. Go ahead.
Okay, hi, how are you? I'm Ahmed, I'm from Egypt. I am senior projects engineer at a company called Delta Building System. We are a manufacturer and supplier for AAC blocks, autoclaved aerated concrete, a sustainable material. And I'm also a student at master's degree at Cairo University in Egypt. I'm working on maybe we can say early involvement of supplier from the design phase. I studied the IBD, lean construction, sustainability, also BIM management. So I am working as a supplier to get involved in the early stage of design with consultant and contractor, also to apply sustainability through using our materials. Lean construction, we can apply, we can make an AAC panels, sustainable material, plus we can use a modular design. We also working on, or I am working on a system who can manage the process between supplier and the contractor, which get notifications when the storage area in the site become or almost to be empty. They get us a notification to deliver the next quantity. It's working through the material logistics planning, which we define it in the early phase of the project by the consultant and the contractor. So I hope to get any advice, especially in lean construction and sustainability. So I'm here for that, and welcome to any advice from your experience.
Excellent. Well, Ahmed, welcome to the team here. Welcome to the table. And I think that, you know, as a supplier, understanding how you fit into the supply chain is important, how you communicate lead times, how you just being open and transparent about your communication is something that is refreshing in our business. I feel like we've gotten slammed recently with a lot of, and I'm sure Felipe's seen it, and Tony and others that are kind of on that frontline contractor world have seen. We've gotten a lot of letters recently from all the vendors and suppliers we work with that say, you know, hey, lead times are going up, costs are going up, and I don't know if people are using it as an excuse or if they're actually being open and transparent about it. Because I just got something from a general contractor the other day that was 50 pages long of all of the things that are not only there's news articles out there about how lead times are going up, but then it was letters from the same suppliers about that. And so we hope that we believe the information we're getting, or are people using it as an excuse of, since we have this opportunity, we're going to take it because things have ramped up and been busy. So we hope that the information we're getting is transparent from our vendors, suppliers, and I think that's important, is just to be transparent and open and honest about that.
Yes, because I know some contractors applying just in time as a concept from lean construction. So we are or me as a supplier, I am support the contractor to apply all the technologies and the, the pole planning to to uh, to improve the constructability.
I want to just pile onto
I
that,
want to just pile on to that,
John, what you're saying.
John, what you're saying.
Ahmed, Ahmed, if you could go on mute
Ahmed, if you could go on mute
Hi,
until I'm
Flip.
done.
till I'm done.
Yeah, if you don't mind muting
Yeah,
yourself while
if
I'm
you don't mind
talking, it'd
muting
be
yourself while I'm talking, it'd be
helpful.
What?
helpful.
Could you mute yourself? We're getting some feedback. Thank you. Yeah, once I get done, go ahead and unmute and talk again. What?
What?
Okay.
Not yet, Ahmed.
Not
Just
yet,
hold on a second.
Ahmed. Just hold on.
Go ahead, go on mute.
Go ahead, go on mute.
All right, perfect. All right, Ahmed, here. One of the things I'd recommend, because you asked for a recommendation, I recommend you check out, you mentioned just in time. Most people that learn about just in time are, and I don't know what you know about it, they just scratch the surface on a quick Google read or some repackaged learning about it from a news article. I highly recommend you pick up the book, The Machine That Changed the World, and I believe it's been translated into many different languages. The current updated edition goes into extreme detail of how companies like Toyota actually use just in time for real, the real way, not the way that the media purports it. So I highly recommend the book, The Machine That Changed the World by James Womack, Womack. The updated version has a deep dive into how that system works and what it takes to actually implement it correctly so that your costs over time go down, not up. And we know there are case studies in that book about how that happens, even with catastrophes like fires burning out complete suppliers, just due to accidental things, and how costs still did not increase. And there have been a lot of speakers in this area, specifically Mark Graban, Graban, has a blog, and he's talked about just in time, refuting some of the media claims of how costs have gone up. So highly recommend those two resources. One, a book you can buy, and Mark Graban's podcast and blog, totally free. Check that out. Okay, you can mute unmute.
Okay, Flip. Thank you. I have already read the Toyota Way book, and I will search for the book you mentioned. Thank you, Philip.
You're welcome. Welcome to the stage, Nick. What's up, Nick? Say hi to everybody.
Morning, everyone. Thanks for having me.
All right, John and Brittany, it's back to y'all.
Appreciate it, Felipe, Ahmed, about especially the book, Machine That Changed the World, great one. Toyota Way, another just excellent book about and now the second edition is out. I'm reading my copy now. So a lot of good information out there about the idea of just-in-time deliveries, just as a kind of what's been going on in the industry. So we have to be open and transparent and honest about what's going on in the industry as far as the supply chain is going right now. So in the United States, we've gotten steel pricing has gone up astronomically to some of the points we've never seen before. And it's such a quick speed, especially when it comes to things like bar joist. We have a project that we're starting, an office building. It's been in kind of the works for a number of years. $550,000 increase in cost on a $11 million project over the last 6 months because of steel pricing. and it went up. The steel bar joist pricing went up another $10,000 in the last week, with lead times extending from November out to February now. So speaking from today, June, November was our original lead time. Now we're talking about February lead time for bar joists in the United States, because of the tax that's happened on the industry, or the pressure that's been put on the industry. So if we believe those things that we're getting from our vendor supply chain, we have to be really cognizant and aware of that, because now the dollars are going to get spread even thinner. But we need to be open and transparent and honest about it when we receive this information, and then when how we deliver it to our clients, and talk to them about it, because the longer we wait, the costs continue to just go up, it seems like. But we got to be out there. We got to talk about the idea of just-in-time delivery. When are these materials going to be there? How do we procure things? And possibly even in the world of Toyota, the idea of having no inventory is seen as a waste within their organization. But they do bring in inventory when they know it's going to upset the supply chain if they don't have inventory. So they don't like inventory, but they break their own rules when it comes to keeping inventory in their facilities, in their manufacturing facilities, because they know that it's a global economy and they don't want to upset the supply chain down the road to deliver automobiles, or in their case, deliver automobiles to the industry and to their customers. So they will break their own rules. So we have to be aware of that. Should we procure things ahead of time, store them so that we know we have them when we need them, versus the idea of just-in-time delivery? And you have to be flexible with that. You can't stick hard and fast to one rule or the other. You have to be flexible with all these things, because of the evolving world that we live in, and the fact that supply chain right now is a huge issue. I don't know, Felipe, do you have anything on your experiences recently with supply chain, with cost increases, and how clients are receiving that information from you guys?
General Contracting 101, John. When you know something, share with the client early and often, so that you don't have to fight about it later. So we haven't done what you've received, where we're sending people newspaper clippings. I think that's a little inappropriate, but I'm just getting judgy right now at a beautiful 8:30 on a Thursday. We've definitely, as we've gotten things from some of the suppliers, we've shared with folks and said, these particular things for your job, specific to your project and what we're doing here, these are some of the impacts. So we've been very targeted and specific, and we're just being transparent with it as much as possible across the board. It seems that seems to be the best. And nothing has been a surprise to people. Everyone who watches the news for 5 minutes a day will pick up on this.
So just a quick comment there from the electronics. Lead times are going out there as well, no surprise. But we are a member of an organization called ECIA, and they actually make surveys from everybody as a manufacturer, so we can share and have that transparency with all the manufacturers. So I don't know if there's anything similar in the lean construction world, but it's a great way that we are transparent to each other, and then of course to our customers as well.
Yeah, we're a little more disjointed, Sannah. We don't have something as beautiful like that. So
Then start it. Make 2 companies do it. Then you will be a front runner.
It's time to make it.
I like that. Well, if only there was a way we could put something like this on the blockchain, Marcus.
Well, I mean, we have like resources, like you could go to ENR, things like that, that are telling us on call it a lagging indicator of what's going on. But there's not a lot of good information on a leading indicator of what's happening on a daily basis, unless you're going to the source to find it. So we don't have a lot of good information. It's coming out after the fact and catching people by surprise. I love the Contractor 101 that Felipe had talked about, which is the idea that when you know something, tell the owner, so that it's not a surprise, and so that we have time to react to it. But I think part of that, Felipe, is the delivery of how you deliver information to the clients and how you do that. How do you have that? Number one, do we have the ability to have an open dialogue with our clients on a whenever needed basis? Are the clients that open to it, or the owners reps that we work with, et cetera? Because that communication line has to stay open for this for this whole process to work, for this whole philosophy to work. We have to keep the communication line open and going, and people shouldn't. We try not to get defensive about that information. But I've had a lot of contractors be like, "Hey, here's what it is. Sorry, kind of thing," instead of trying to support or bring solutions to the table along with the issue.